Welcome to the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. Folks, I'm a third-year law school student. I'm not just a law school student, I've actually done research for legislation that actually went into effect in the state of Louisiana. I also worked in a couple of law firms here in Las Vegas. So I'm not just a student. In my undergraduate, I did research also. So I do research. A lot of people say, where did you get this from? It's my research. I'm the source. It seems that a few of you are confused about what actually the Cosby case was about. So I'm here to define the Cosby case for you, tell you how everything came about, and tell you where we stand right now. It saddens me that you can listen to the news media and swallow it hook, line, and sinker and never question it. In fact, it's so bad that, 55% of Americans feel that if they question something, that there will be a backlash about them questioning it. A little recent survey that they did, namely talking about politics, but it applies in general. We live in an era where if certain people say things, you cannot question it. Well, I'm here to give you some facts. There's no question about it. Let's proceed. Bill Cosby, how was he set up? I'm going to explain the setup. Let's begin. A little knowledge is dangerous knowledge. If the media can give you just a little knowledge, they can convince you the most generous, richest black man in America is a low-down, dirty rat. Even more, if they can sell more magazines, newspaper, get you to watch them on TV, which is slowly dying. The media was looking for an OJ Part 2. I don't think you all understand the OJ Simpson trial, that whole thing, that changed television forever. And it actually helped launch 24-hour television. There was one problem. There was no case. They rounded up 40 women to accuse Bill Cosby of something, anything. They kept repeating that he had done this, that, and the other to 40 women. The problem is, if you just took a second to listen to all 40 women, you'd realize that half of them had absolutely nothing bad to say about the guy. Isn't that interesting? Also, if you paid attention, you'd realize that, given America's very real history, that in the 60s, Cosby, a black man, did something to a white woman. For those who aren't American and who don't know American history, specifically black American history, a white woman could say a black man looked in her general direction. And in the 60s, he'd be toast. He'd be gone. He'd be mutilated. Also, the women were trying to make Cosby out to be as famous as he was in the 80s, but be in the 60s. Do you understand that? I'm treating you all like adults. I'm relying that you all are intelligent, okay? So you got to follow with me. People say I dumb down stuff too much. Okay. So here's a little bit more intelligent conversation. Cosby was not famous until the height of the Cosby Show in the 80s. He wasn't powerful. He couldn't snap his fingers and make you disappear. But these women were pretending that this no-name black comedian in the 60s was this all-powerful man. It's a lie. They could have easily snapped their fingers and made Cosby disappear. I want to get some comments on the chat for that. Also, all of these women tried to sell their story to the tabloids, and the tabloids refused to print it. Why do you think that is? Because a good 70% of the women were heavy drug users. Something about those types of people, they seek money just for their next fix. In steps Gloria Allred. Gloria Allred has brought suit against black man after black man after black man, and she has brought hundreds of millions of dollars for her law firm. Usually it's a very young black man who's been careless. Not that he has done anything, but that he's careless. Not that anything happened, but he's careless. What am I talking about? I'm talking about some athlete went to a party and got drunk. And then a girl pops up and says, hey, you know that party that you went to? This, that, and the other. You did this, that, and the other to me. No evidence, no proof, no nothing. In steps Gloria Allred, and she demands $20 million from you. No proof, no evidence. But if you don't fork over $20 million, we're going to put this out in the newspaper, and you're going to lose your career. Make that check payable to... Now, I find it ironic that Gloria Allred's daughter is representing none other than Harvey Weinstein as his lawyer. Gloria Allred demanded $100 million for her and her 40 women to go away. Not to be bullied, Cosby turned around and sued for defamation. And won! But wait, it gets even worse for these women. Trying to jump the gun, a couple of them tried to sue Cosby for defamation, for calling them a liar. But, again, they lost. The judge said, accusing someone of something, and then that person calling you a liar in their own defense isn't grounds for a defamation. They even tried to sue Cosby's lawyer for money, of course. Finally, they found a woman. Her civil case had already been done, but she spent all the money, millions of dollars, with her family and friends. The statute of limitations had run out on her case. The police looked all over all of the evidence. The district attorney looked over all the evidence and said, there is no case here. Now, why did he say that? Number one, he called her to the station 3 times. Each time she gave a wrong date, wrong year, wrong events. No 2 stories even agreed with each other. No 2 stories, no 2 facts in her story agreed from story to story. She gave 3 different stories, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a parent and you call your child in suspecting that something has gone wrong and your child gives you 3 different stories, please tell me in the comments what's about to happen to your child. Number 2, even the most recent of the dates she picked, even the most recent. So we're talking 2004, right? She went back another 60 times after that. Texted him thousands of times. I think it's something like 6,000 or even 12,000, something like that. After that. After supposedly the thing happened, right? Number 3, there was no evidence at all of anything happening. She didn't go to the police until a year after the supposed event. She said, let me make sure you understand this point. She told the district attorney that she went to the police a year after the fact, and the police said, there's not a case. She told the district attorney she went to the police. The district attorney, of course, did not find any evidence that she went to the police. But I digress. There was nothing he could do, but there's nothing the district attorney could do, but Cosby is black. I don't think you all understand what's about to go down. He said he probably did something. He's probably a scumbag. And that word pops up a lot in the Cosby case, describing, of all people, Cosby. So far, nothing has been proven, right? So far, nothing has been proven, right? But these people who are in charge of prosecuting criminals have already come to a conclusion. And this district attorney says, well, there's no way I can bring a case because there's no evidence. There's nothing here. You're just saying he did something. That's not proof. But he hatched a plan to get this woman some money. He agreed to never prosecute Cosby if he would submit to a deposition. For those of you who aren't aware of what that is, let me tell you his options, Cosby's options. Number 1, if Cosby agreed to answer all questions, they go to civil court and they could settle out of court and it'd all be over. Number 2, if he did not agree to answer all questions, Although you and I know now he had no case. He would drag Cosby through criminal court just to give him a headache and make him pay as much in lawyer fees. Folks, it's called extortion, and the police do it all the time. Welcome to America. Please don't give me this BS that there's good cops. There are not. The entire profession is tainted with corruption from the head to the toe. It's not a good profession. Good people aren't cops. Probably good people aren't lawyers, but but a lawyer can do some good. A cop can't. A cop is incapable of doing. Do you understand? A cop is incapable. Don't give me my brother's a great cop. No, he's incapable of doing anything. He has no power. He's a cop. He's a lackey. He is a peon in the entire existence of the judicial system. It is his duty to help prosecute people. He can't prosecute anybody. He can help prosecute people. That is, he can amass evidence that the person was a criminal, even if they're not a criminal. And folks, that happens a lot. There's nothing good about the profession. Sorry to tell you. This is coming from a third-year law school student. So Cosby agreed, and they asked him questions. For the most part, there was nothing in the deposition. Now, the media has convinced you, I have a video with the proof, that Cosby confessed to drugging women. This is a bald-faced lie. You ready? Here it is. Question. Have you ever bought Quaaludes in furtherance of getting with a woman? Answer. She asked for them. Cosby. Question. To women in particular. Did you ask for Quaaludes from Bill Cosby? Answer. Yes. He was the connect. For those of you all who do not know what the word connect means in this context, I assume you also don't know anything about the judicial system. You probably are completely ignorant of what is even going on in America. This exact woman was interviewed later on. She says Cosby and her are friends and have always been friends. She thought nothing of the deposition. The media that made the deposition out to be this fantastic confession never reported her saying she asked for it. Never reported her saying she asked for them. Never. It's literally the next sentence in the deposition. Let me clear away some media lies. Question. Did Cosby confess to drugging Andrea Constant? Answer. No. Let me repeat that. Did Cosby confess to drugging Andrea Constant? No. Question. What was the deposition about? What was that whole question in the deposition about? Answer. General lifestyle 60 friggin' years ago. It had nothing to do with Andrea Constant. They were asking about something that happened in the 60s, of something that was banned in the early 70s, and that you cannot get a hold of today because it's no longer manufactured and hasn't been for decades. But the media has you believing that Cosby said something about someone. Now, the second district attorney ran on a campaign to unseal that deposition. Guess who tried to get it unsealed first? The media. The newspaper sued to try and get a sealed court document open. They lost. It's in my video. In my Cosby series, it's in my video. At this point, you're probably wondering how Cosby ended up in jail. Hold on, it gets even worse for them. Statute of limitations has run out. Cosby's has been winning lawsuit after lawsuit. So what do? They pull the old ninth inning shenanigans and declares that the statute of limitations has not run out. I can't remember what lie they pulled, but the judge signed off on it. You smell a fish? I smell a fish. Who's this judge? Oh, it gets worse. A second judge takes it upon himself to unseal the deposition and release it to the press. The problem is, there's nothing worthwhile in the deposition. There's no evidence, no proof, no confession. Wait, why don't we just make up a lie and tell it to the public? The public will believe anything that we say. And that's how the second district attorney won. On the night of his win, he receives 2 phone calls. Quote, prosecute that scumbag Cosby immediately. Who's that calling? Andrea Constand's mother. The same mother that says she couldn't stand a black man ever setting foot in her house. Ever. That's who that was on the phone on the night of the win of the second district attorney. Now, what is her connection to the district attorney? Funny you should ask that question. Andrea Constand dated and married the assistant district attorney. The assistant district attorney happens to be a woman. What about now, you're asking, then why was she with Cosby? Well, 15 years before that, she and her mother were fighting. Her mother told her to stop this woman stuff. That's not how she put it. I'm being polite. So she started dating men. Famous men. I don't know why famous men, but she started dating famous men. Cosby was just one of them. In fact, Cosby was not the first man that they went after, but Cosby is the first one they went after to this degree. A few years later, she finally said, enough is enough, I'm going back to women. And that brings us all back to date. No pun intended. Problem. They had no case. So they made up a case. They went with the old story floating around from the other women. They had a trial and the jury came back unconvinced anything happened at all. Hung jury. There were literally people on the jury that said, I don't believe a case was even presented before me. Hung means there's people who believe the person is innocent and there's people who believe the person is guilty, right? And they cannot convince each other to agree on either side, right? There were people in that jury who literally said, I don't think there was a case, that we saw a case at all. None. Nothing happened. She went over to his house, and that's what you prove. She went over his house. So what? But she said she could say whatever she wants. She could say he turned yellow. He's an alien. He's a reptile. She could say all sorts of things. That doesn't prove anything. Now, let me explain to you, a hung jury should be the end of the story, but not this court, not this judge. He made some adjustments. Half the defense witnesses were not allowed to testify. And 5 women who had never been in a court against Cosby were allowed to testify as if they had. Let me tell you, for you to get on the stand in a court case, as some sort of witness to something, you should have been already in a trial and somebody asked you questions and a judge was sitting there watching and they presented some evidence for or against what you're saying and something is proven. None of the women who got on the stand had ever done that. They just literally made accusations out in the social media and made threats with Gloria over it. This judge allowed those women on his stand. A few pointers. This is juicy. The judge's wife is a woman's activist. She was literally outside the courtroom on the steps protesting the Cosby case. The judge should have been removed because of that. No. He was asked to step down. No. He said, she's her own woman. She's your wife. She's not a stranger. She's your wife. At night when you go home, at night in the wee hours of the morning, and you crawl into bed, the person next to you under the sheets is your wife. And the United States of America assumes that you are so beholden to your wife or your husband that he can confess all sorts of things to you, and you can confess all things to her, and in a court of law, they cannot force you to say any of it. That's how strong they believe the bond between husband and wife is. This guy, the judge, said she's her own woman. No, that's your wife. There's a whole amendment talking about you and your wife. The case should have been thrown out right there. Another point. The district attorney that said there was no case was a direct enemy of the new district attorney and wasn't allowed to testify. But wait, there's more. The judge that we were just talking about, the judge that's sitting on the bench who didn't allow the former district attorney to testify in favor of Cosby had an affair with that district attorney's assistant district attorney. That judge, that's who's sitting on the bench. That's who decided that the district attorney, the former district attorney, could not testify in the case. That's who's on that bench right there. The judge. That's that judge. That's who there. But wait, it gets even more. The district attorney had an affair with one of the assistant DAs in the former district attorney's office too. And he argued that the former DA should not be allowed to testify. That's who's prosecuting Cosby. What did I say at the very beginning of this thing? A little knowledge is dangerous. The media tells you a minuscule amount of knowledge and says, we have come to a conclusion, Cosby is guilty. Oh, really? Let me give you all of the facts. All of them. What does all of this have to do with Cosby, is the question, right? Actually, I meant to ask you that, right? Because all this corruption is swirling around Cosby and has nothing to do with Cosby. But that's not corruption, Shaka. Au contraire, mon frere. In this particular county, about a decade before, the FBI and the Department of Justice swooped in and threw half of the judges and district attorney and state's attorneys in jail, full-on jail, full-on prison for corruption. And I mean straight-up corruption. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They're under investigation again. The people in the courtroom prosecuting Cosby. That was a terrible impersonation. I apologize. And the trial that proceeded was a kangaroo court. Half of the defense team questions weren't allowed, and they piled on with no evidence at all of stuff just on the witness stand. 2 women confessed on the stand on cross-examination that they made it all up. And what's funny is they still are on the news till today. They're in the news talking about how he did this, that, and the other. Why? Because they're selling books. He's a chapter in their book that they're selling. At $19.99 on Amazon. Be sure to go check that out. I detailed all the horrible stuff that Cosby did to me. Yeah, they confessed on the stand that they made it all up. But they're still in the news. The media is still calling them as witnesses against Cosby in news stories. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, it really makes me wince when somebody says, oh, Cosby is a so-and-so. Based on what? What are you basing that on? Because there was no evidence in the trial. What are you basing that on? Do you have something that, because you want something? Let me give you one final blow. So the particular woman in question is worked at Temple University. In her duties, she traveled with the sports team. She would be roommates with other staff members. On one such occasion, Cosby came into the news, and she said, I can get that man. And her roommate, a black woman, stated, did something happen? And she said, I can get that man. I can get that man. And she said, did something happen? After they returned to the trip, the black woman, who is a staff member of Temple University and a friend, and a friend said, "Did something happen between you and Cosby?" And she said, "No, but I can get money from him." She was not allowed to testify in court. In fact, Andrea Constand said that that was not a friend. She didn't know her. There are school records of them rooming together. It's in not only in the documentation, it's in the receipts. So for people to say Cosby is a such and so, based on what evidence? What you got that can trump somebody saying she confessed to her that nothing happened? Now, trying to take a page out of the second DA's handbook, Cosby was called to trial against a fake woman who was never in the president's presence of Cosby, well outside of the statute of limitations. The case was finally dismissed, but they tried. Folks, I don't care who you think you know or what you think you know. This was the worst trial in the history of the country. Even the women of The View, who do not agree with anything that Cosby stands for, he's conservative, they're full on liberal, right? Even the women of The View said this was a dark day in the history when a man can be convicted without evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, The View said that. The View. So, how you like me now? He's won his ability to go to the state Supreme Court. After that, it will be the Supreme Court. Might I remind you that Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Thomas Clarence sit on that court, and they've been writing the majority opinion as of late. And Ruth Gator Ginsburg is sick, so she's not going to be hearing any cases. So that's one liberal off of the court, and two very direct men who are not going to recuse themselves off of the Cosby case. They will hear the case, and not only that, they will probably require that the Department of Justice go ahead and investigate the trial judge, because there were some improper things going on in that trial. Thank you all for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. Peace to the nation, whatever. I'm sick with corona. I'm sitting here sweating. I'm like in pain, sweating. I'm amazed I'm not having cough. I guess because I'm sweating. Is that how it works? If you sweat, you don't cough. Thank y'all for what? Yeah, I'm in Vegas sweating. I have no air conditioner. Bye bye.